Meteorologist Tuttle here with you on a Wednesday night, about 20 minutes till 10, and we are on the eve of our developing ice storm that is making its way through the south, central, and southern Texas panhandle on into southwest Oklahoma and expanding northward into parts of central Oklahoma and in northwest Oklahoma, and then from there on into Kansas and even Missouri before the whole system is all said and done. So if you're watching me from all around the region here in the Southern Plains, I got you covered. We're going to talk about pretty much what we've been talking about since really last week. If you watch my Facebook Lives, I hinted at a potential ice storm for the Thursday time frame, I think last Wednesday or Thursday or over a week ago. So it was just a pattern recognition. I've seen it, a dozen times here. I've been forecasting weather since 1994 roughly. So it's been a minute. You learn a few things over that period of time. Am I that old? Man, okay. I think I see some gray. Sure I do. All right, anyway, so thanks for joining me. I'm glad to have you with me. I've had quite a few new followers and viewers showing up over these broadcasts for the last few days. That means you guys are telling your friends and family about me, so I appreciate it. So welcome to AT's Weather. You can get more information on my website, AaronTuttleWeather.com. I'm a free weather app, which is called AT's Weather to Go. You can find it real easy. Just go to Apple or Google Play, either search my name or search AT's Weather. And it'll be an app you can download on your phone for free. It'll alert you to severe weather, winter weather, you name it, all kinds of weather all over the country while you're traveling. And some people use it internationally. Now, I can't guarantee you get all kinds of good stuff on there internationally because I mostly cover the U.S. with it, but you're going to find some stuff on there that might be helpful. So every now and then you guys will chime in and send me a picture of some vacation spot. So that's pretty cool. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, you're here to see what's happening with the ice storm. So let's get on into it, shall we? Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time tonight showing you all of my reasoning, both scientific and what happens in the world of meteorology to get to the point we are today. I've been doing that all week. Been there, done that. Tonight we're just going to focus on the amounts and the placement in the final result. So the final official forecast, as you may. All right, so let me get to the page I want to show you. And then we shall proceed. Okay, so this is going to be taking a look at the temperatures coming in tonight. I'm going to move it on into daybreak tomorrow. So by the time you wake up in the morning, about 6 o'clock or so, we're going to have readings. This is the blue line. Blue line represents the freezing lines. You can see it's already through about 2/3 of Oklahoma as cold air continues to work in from the north. You felt the cold front earlier today, right? Well, as I step through hour by hour, you can see how temperatures continue to get colder in the upper 20s by mid-morning. Then you start to see a rebound in those temperatures as we head toward lunchtime. You're going, hey, things aren't looking so bad, right? Technically, we're at 33 degrees here in Oklahoma City, southwest Oklahoma in the upper 30s. Still up around freezing around this part of the state and the Kansas. So you're going, what ice? How can you get ice when it's that warm? Now, of course, that warm being relative, it's still cold out there, but above freezing is what I'm alluding to. So we got into the 1 p.m., 2 p.m. time frame. Temperatures really aren't changing a whole lot, kind of holding on to the mid-30s. Now, this is where things change dramatically. Watch as I continue to go through time. This is around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. As we head into 6 o'clock and the 7 o'clock hour, watch how these numbers continue to fall. So as we're about 6 o'clock, you now have a line setting up from basically Osage County through about Stillwater to just on the west side of the metro, down 44, to just west of Lawton. This is the key line right here, because it's going to be along this line, and points west of it is where the freezing rain is falling. Even at this stage already, you're going, well, wait a minute. Yeah, models are having a tough time with these temperatures already, and I'll show you how you can tell here in a second. But as we go through time, I'm going to show you how things evolve. So now we're getting to the dark stages. We're into the evening hours through 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And you can see temperatures there still hugging that line. There's that blue line not moving, not budging. That means freezing rain. Anywhere you see blue on the map, freezing rain overnight. Now watch what happens as we head into the late night period around 3 o'clock in the morning. You start to see that blue line erode as we head into the daybreak hours around 6 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden, that blue line is now shoved way north. So what happens is the air moderates overnight. So our ice storm for parts of the state, especially central Oklahoma, is going to be shorter than it is as far as in time than as far western or far northern Oklahoma. So that's how things will actually improve later on Thursday night into Friday morning, which is good because we do not want an ice skating rink for morning commuters come Friday morning, which will happen if you live out in northern and western Oklahoma. Here in central Oklahoma, as long as this warming trend continues overnight, and it's only by a couple of degrees. I mean, look, Oklahoma City's at 33. That's just 1 degree above freezing. That is a close call. It's a scary call, but that's a close call. All right, so just let's pretend the model's off by a degree. You want to make sure you wake up early Friday morning, give yourself plenty of time to get to work. Watch out for the crazies. Don't be a crazy. Take your time. Drive safe. 2 hands on the wheel. All that stuff. You might even wait and go into work an hour or two later if it turns out it's a skating rink out there. Again, that's in the future. As we head into the rest of Friday, into the mid-morning hours, it's still freezing out in western Oklahoma. The model's still struggling. Look, it's got 32 here in Oklahoma City, so it's still struggling trying to warm things up. And then as we head into the, let's say, lunchtime area, about noon, we're finally eroding most of the blue. Still have some touch and go areas of freezing rain that'll be falling, but then by the mid-afternoon, looks like most areas above freezing, it's all over with. So it's kind of a 24-hour deal. Let's say from noon Thursday to noon Friday as far as the window for freezing rain. Now, why are the models having tough time with what to produce as far as the precipitation? We're going to look at the dew point values. Dew point's a measure of raw air, raw moisture in the atmosphere. Low dew point values equals very dry air. What happens is you want that temperature and the dew point to meet somewhere. With evaporative cooling and called wet bulbing, the two shall meet together. And that's where you get your final resting temperature. Now, if you're calling Oklahoma City, was it around these, let's see, 6 o'clock hour, I think it had Oklahoma City around 34 degrees. The dew point at this point in time is 24. So what happens is the model's having a tough time meeting those two numbers once it saturates the atmosphere. It's not doing it, and it should be. So in other words, those two numbers will meet in the middle, probably right around settling at 29 degrees, maybe 30, somewhere right around there, which means there is a small window for Oklahoma City drive time tomorrow for Thursday from around 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, maybe 9 o'clock in that window. There might be a sweet spot in there where some ice could accumulate on some bridges and overpasses. And it could just be on the west side of town, or it could be all of Oklahoma County. It is that too close to call even tonight. And that's frustrating for me because I can't get you any better than that. At least I got you in the ballpark in the vicinity when I drew that line for you, but that's all I can do based off of what we have to work with for tonight. As we go overnight, see those dew point values climb. We're at 30 overnight. Then we're at 32. So again, the temperature can't get below the dew point. So once you hit 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning on Friday here in Oklahoma City, we're at 32 degree dew point, which means the ice is over for us. We can't get any colder than that. You still got some warm ground temperatures, and the sun starts to come out, even though you can't see it. Radiation through the clouds, that'll help things out. And you can see dew points recovering across the rest of Oklahoma during the mid to late morning hours to help alleviate some of the ice. Now let's get to what this looks like for you. And then we'll talk about the totals, and that's it. That's really all I have for you for tonight. So here's a look at how the rainfall developed overnight into tomorrow morning, which is in southern Texas. As we head into the morning hour, still dry here across the body of Oklahoma, but as we head into lunchtime, you're starting to see a lot of light precipitation showing up here across the southern third and out in western Oklahoma. Now, a lot of this is going to evaporate. It's called virga. You'll see like little streaks coming down. And then you might even get a little bit of sleet pebbles that'll actually make it to the surface because the atmosphere has to saturate before we can actually get the rainfall to touch down. And you might get a couple like little drops on your windshield of what would be like a sprinkle, something like that. As we head into the 2021, let's see, this is Zulu time, so we're at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock time frame coming up. You can see how we still have some rain in south central and eastern Oklahoma. So again, no threat of ice. Let me reemphasize that. Let me draw a line here for you from basically this region here. Again, no ice anywhere in the southeastern, third to almost half of the state. So it's all focused out here to the west and the north and northwest. So here's all the red on the map, which indicates freezing rain, by the way. Green is just the stuff that's not freezing. By the way, freezing rain, if you've missed my broadcast, it's just your typical old-fashioned rainfall, but it flash freezes on contact at the surface because it runs into that very thin, shallow Arctic air, and then everything it hits elevated, glances over with that ice, which is why bridges and overpasses are susceptible first, trees, power lines, tall buildings, that kind of deal. Okay, so as we're into the evening hours, you see how that freezing rain does make it. This is Oklahoma County, by the way, right here, and it does make it in Oklahoma County. And then you've got some more freezing rain out west. Now, as far as the impact here in Oklahoma County, I think it'll be very light, maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice accumulation, at least right now, fingers crossed, with the bulk of it out to the west. But you can see how that line here in red extends across the northern part of the state, still continues out southwest, all the way down just west of Lawton, just north and west of town, out toward Altus. We mosey on into the overnight hours. We're at 3, 4, 5 o'clock. You can see how the freezing rain is coming to an end. It's getting replaced with more just regular rain. So anything, again, that is out there in the ice will then melt. So that's good news for any potential power outages, driving conditions, et cetera, come Friday morning, especially in the latter part of the Friday morning hours. You can still see some bouts. We're going to have pockets of colder air enough to keep some of the freezing rain going through the mid-morning hours on Friday. But the overall trend here is it to turn right over to regular rain by lunchtime and then continue to move on through the state. So here's how we look at totals. This is the Canadian model. I'm going to, once again, I love its positioning, which kind of jives with that line I showed you earlier. All right. But I don't like the amounts. I think they're too high, because I hope they're too high. Because if they're, and here's the frustrating part I have. We're in the middle of winter, okay, so typically we're a very dry pattern. However, the storm system coming in is a very deep tropical Pacific moisture, which has 300% values of our precipitable water. You're going, what's all that? It means there's a ton of moisture in the atmosphere that's normally not here this time of the year. So when I see these high values, it's hard for me in the wintertime to say, man, we're going to get an inch of rain, which is going to be ice. So my brain doesn't want to go with this. It wants to cut it in half automatically. So let's just say I cut it in half. That's still 1/4 to ½ inch of ice here across a good chunk of the western parts of the state. And that's enough for some power outages. Now, we added to the high resolution NAM model. It has been very consistent in its placement too. And again, I like its placement. Very similar to the Canadian model, and it goes a little something like this. And I could include, like I said, probably about maybe 1/10 of ice at most for a few hours here in Oklahoma County, but otherwise the bulk of it is going to be Canadian County, points west and north. And the purple you see on the map is around ½ an inch, a little bit greater. So you can see a lot of pinks, a lot of reds and purples. That's again 1/4 to ½ inch on average across a large territory. So that's a full-fledged ice storm, and that continues on into Kansas, almost all of Kansas with the exception of the northwest, and then a good chunk of Missouri as well, as you head from Friday on into Friday night. Now, what gives credence to some of these values? Like if I pick this little spot up here around Kingfisher, it's got about ½ an inch of ice. This is a look at a model blend. This is a two-dimensional plot versus looking down and seeing a pretty picture. And each of these lines is a different model. If we look at the midnight hour, and again, I'm picking this spot which is north of Weatherford, it's basically right on the Kingfisher area. If I look at these numbers here on average throughout, this is the timeline. Let's get this for you. So this is midnight, Thursday night. This is 12Z, so this is Friday morning, 6 a.m. You can see the black line is the average, and you have some runs that are above it, some runs that are below it. But the average temperature is still 32 degrees through the morning hours. That's key. The second thing is I'm going to plot the dew point. This black line, dew point is at 30, 31, 31. So remember, the temperature and the dew point will meet in the middle. So it's still below freezing. Now, when you look at the total amount of precipitation that falls, by the way, the probability of ice, freezing rain, is red. So it's got the red peaking at midnight and then dropping off toward morning and then pretty much out of here by noon. Okay, that jives with the map I showed you on a two-dimensional plane, and then replaced with rainfall. The percentage of rainfall goes up and the percentage of ice comes down. If I look at the amount of the total amount of precipitation that falls during this point, the average at that point is 0.72 inches. That's 3/4 of an inch of ice. So when I say quarter to half inch, that's being conservative because the model blend is actually 3/4 of an inch of ice, with some up to some ridiculous amount of an inch or more, and then some down lower to around, looks like still about 3/10, which is more than a quarter. So I'm actually way more conservative in my forecast than a model blend, which is a high resolution that is pretty spot on and used a lot during winter forecasting. That makes me nervous because my brain can't fathom a bigger amount tonight. This whole thing is such a close call because it is a wet bulb. It's a wet bulb forecast, which is only can happen in this kind of situation with the Arctic air in an overrunning isotropic lifting type situation. And the models will bust all the time, and they have all week long until the last 24 hours. They started Catch a Clue, maybe 36 hours. So they're late to the party, but at least they're here. They showed up on time. They just didn't bring any gifts other than, more and more ice on the map. And that's not a pleasant gift to bring. The other thing I could show you is we showed this to you also the other night. This is a sounding of that same area. When the two lines meet, the green and the red, if you take a balloon sounding, you launch it in the air, it takes samples all several thousand feet all the way up. So this is looking at that diagram up and down. When the green and the red meet, that's dew point temperature, the air is saturated. So they're pretty close, way in the upper levels, all the way down. They're super saturated down the lower levels. And it has readings right at or below freezing at this particular snapshot in time. This is 5 o'clock Friday morning. Now when I look, and this is again in the Kingfisher area, so just kind of show you what this looks like on the data side. And when I look at the actual ice accumulations for this is a different model, by the way. The other one we looked at that blend. This is just our high resolution NAM model. It has about 3/10 of an inch of ice for a total. But when you take that over round objects such as power lines, etc., it's got just a little over a 1/10 of an inch of ice because the two will accumulate differently on different surfaces. So this is a kind of neat little feature this one particular model can produce for meteorologists to kind of look at and gauge what kind of threat you have when it comes to power outages, that kind of deal. So this model over the same spot has a less amount than the model blend of the high resolution ensemble model, which is right. Well, obviously I hope this one is. It's a lesser impact, lesser power outages, all that jazz, but it still falls within that quarter to half inch ice accumulations here for the western and west central part of Oklahoma. So just another way to view this, which is not what you guys typically see on your television screens or all that kind of stuff. All right, that was a mouthful. Hey, it only took me 15 minutes. Jeez. I tried to make this quick, and this wasn't going to happen, was it? It's not meant to be. That's okay. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit. I'm going to jump around to the social media channels, see if you guys had any quick questions for me that I can answer for you. By the way, thanks to you guys on Twitter that are watching. Of course, that ties into Periscope, but you can watch it live on my Twitter profile, Aaron Tuttle OK. Let's go to YouTube real quick. Glad you guys like the music. And King of Destruction says, my first time watching your live. Hello from Yukon. Well, welcome. The channel 152 says you're the greatest meteorologist of all time. Already got the goat on there. That's cute, but thank you. All right, we're going to move on to my patrons. This is my private Facebook group page. I'm looking real quick at your comments, and then I'll go to the main page and see what you guys have to say. Remember to hold your comments till the very end, or not comments. You guys comment all night long, but your questions for me specifically, because I can't see them until I'm finished yakking. John wants snow. Ain't not going to happen this go around. At most, you'll get a little sleet in northwest Oklahoma at the beginning of this whole event. It'll quickly go over to freezing rain. All right, let's move on to Facebook page itself in general. Okay, love the white shirt. Thanks, I just threw it on this morning. Actually, it was warmer this morning. I went to work, I brought my jacket just in case, and then of course like at lunchtime I was like, whoa, a little chilly out here, and then it got colder and colder. You'd think the weather guy would pay attention to the weather, but no. I'm too focused on like the big picture for tomorrow. I'm not even paying attention to today. It's hilarious. Let's see. So Jane wants to know when's this supposed to happen. So Jane is way late to the party. If you guys don't know, LTTP means late to the party. Let's see. It is going to be a afternoon Thursday into Friday midday event. So from noon to noon roughly. And that's over the ice parts over the western half of Oklahoma roughly. And then I drew a line, outline it, skimmed a few counties here and there. Oklahoma City is right at the borderline for that, for at least a few hours in the late afternoon or early evening for our potential. Yeah, it's, if you're out in western Oklahoma, obviously what you would do is plan for the worst and hope for the best. No one wants an ice storm. The good news is temperatures won't, be sub-freezing for a long period of time. So crews will be able to get out. The ice is going to melt, by Friday afternoon anyway, and then any down lines, the crews can get out there and start working right away. So this will be although it has the potential to be a high impact storm, if we actually get some of these, heavier ice amounts the models are indicating, it'll be a quick turnaround in restoring power versus what you would normally see in the wintertime. We get these kind of setups. So if you're asking if it's going to be safe to drive around 5 or wherever, so here's my advice to you. There's a couple. One's real easy. It's just open up your Google Maps on your phone, and it'll paint the areas red or orange for traffic slow, based off the GPS. The other thing you can do, and let me show you this. Let me pull my little guy up here. So this is my website, AaronTuttleWeather.com. So I've got a data tab, and you can get this off your phone, mobile, or through my weather app, AT's Weather to Go, or you can just go to your computer, your PC, or your MacBook, or whatever you got. Type in AaronTuttleWeather.com, go to data. I scroll down to, in this particular case, I'm on Oklahoma road conditions. First thing I have is a 2-inch soil temperature. This is obviously a little bit better for when we're talking about snow accumulations, whether or not it's going to snow. You can see ground temperatures are quite warm. But when we're talking about ice storm, we're not worried about ground temperatures. We're more worried about, the elevated surfaces. This is a look at the snow routes, by the way, so that thing's plotted up for you. It might come in handy. And this is also the road condition map with road closings based off the weather. So this is a helpful page for you to go to, and this also have Oklahoma City traffic. It even has you can change this to Tulsa as well. It has traffic cameras you can pull up. So that page will be helpful for you during winter weather events. Power outages are obviously also a concern. Since I'm streaming 4 different things at once and then re-downloading those streams, my page will be a little slower to load than yours, but it'll have OG&E on here and some of the other co-ops that'll pop up here with time. They're just going to be too slow to load on my page. But you can get the power outages for your area, and then what else was on here for winter weather stuff that you might find interesting. I think that's it that you might use the most. Otherwise, there's wildfire information. There's the radars on here as well. The Oklahoma Mesonet, which will show you a lot more things on the temperatures and the wind speeds, rainfall totals, all that kind of stuff. When you're like tracking the Oklahoma Mesonet, for example, and you want to see where the ice is actually occurring, so these are all the weather stations, all right? And all these little barbs are the wind direction. So these are all out of the northeast at 22, gusting to 22, I think it's in miles per hour. Yeah. I'm used to seeing knots at work, so I got to convert my head. But it's pretty windy out there, right? What happens is once ice starts to fall, all these wind barbs go to a dot. So you're just going to see dots on the map everywhere. And that will be your outline of where the freezing rain is occurring. So this is a quick cheat map to find out where freezing rain is occurring, because it will ice over the anemometers and they won't be allowed to spin. And that's how you can find out where the ice is. So tomorrow I would expect all the anemometers to freeze up, something about like this, by sometime in the, let's just call it early evening hours, over at least this part, and then it'll take a while for these northern areas to get hit, so probably late evening hours. But that's where I would expect most of these anemometers to freeze up, whereas of course out east of that line, they'll still be showing the wind speeds. And there'll be light winds also for this event. as we head, especially into Thursday afternoon and then into Thursday night and Friday morning, which will help, again, with some power outages. Because the lighter winds you have, the less load and stress you have on the lines and whatnot. All right, so I just threw that out there as some bonus information you guys might find of interest. So there you go. Let's see. Glad you guys appreciate the in-depth analysis, and thanks for commenting, letting me know that you're seeing, you get a different approach to weather here, and I have the luxury of being able to talk more than 3 minutes. Whereas on the newscast, I was limited for 12 years to talk to you for 3.5 minutes. If there was a lot to talk about, we could stretch to 4 minutes. Woohoo! That was an eternity in TV time. But I'm not limited to that here, so I can bloviate all night long. But I have to go because Jody's waiting on me. And you men know you don't want to keep a good woman waiting, because the result of that is never good. So I'm going to wrap this up tonight. I'm going to check in with you guys again tomorrow, probably a Facebook Live around lunchtime, and we'll see where things are falling and where they're not falling, and we'll go from there. Let's, again, just prepare for the worst and hope for the best. It's an ice storm, and we'll see what happens. Paul, I like wearing white. What are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with white. What you don't want to wear is green in front of a green screen. Any shade of green, because it's a mess. I used to wear sometimes green ties at work that had some green in them, and the control room would hate me. And they would have to keep tweaking the knobs and numbers so I wouldn't key out, key through, and just to keep them, on their game. Okay, I got out of here because I'll get sidetracked again. Squirrel. Guys, have a good night. We'll talk again soon. Be careful, be safe. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.